Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the C&J Speedway Review, the fastest hour on YouTube. Grand total of free. My name is Chris Burns from the Loki and Jabroni Show. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Radio, Wednesday. But here we are now on Wednesday and staring across the screen at Corey Huffnagel. Corey, how you doing today?
Well, I'm doing pretty great. I can just tell you this, it's already the start of summer, and would you believe that Sunday it's going to be 90 degrees, and speaking of which, we are now entering in the summer months of racing, and I can tell you this, the next couple of racetracks coming up, it's going to be very interesting to see if we can get a new winner, or if we can probably get the same winner as always, but I'm really looking forward to this.
I'm looking at, again, we're coming up to a 1.5-mile track. You might have the same winner. You might have a surprise. You may have someone you never thought would come up big at Chicagoland Speedway. I'm looking forward to it. The 1.5 miles always bring out the best in these drivers, even more so than Daytona and Talladega. Those might be the big ones to win, but with as many 1.5 miles as we have on the circuit every single year, these are the ones you want to excel at because there's so many of them.
Absolutely, and let's not forget Daytona. That's going to be pretty much the wild card in the regular season, and I could just pretty much say that the 1.5 miles and the 1 miles. I mean, we could see like the same winner and so forth, but when you go back down to Daytona, especially in July when it's like really humid and the races are run at night, that's probably going to be the only race where you're going to end up seeing a surprise winner. I mean, because think about it, you could be running in second. And, you can try and get a run on the outside, but nobody's not going to go with you. You're probably going to go from second to 25th in one lap. Or, pretty much the top guys will get caught up in a big wreck for something, they didn't do and so forth. But that's the only thing I really like about this regular season is, especially during the summer months, when you have the 1.5 miles and then you got that wild card, which is the restrictor plate track. And then, of course, you got the next road course coming up, which is Watkins Glen. So I can just tell you this, things can be very interesting, but then yet again, like you said, we could see a surprise winner because, you'll see some guys, take chances and, pretty much they say like, we got nothing to lose at this point. So, we just got to go for it.
That's when you got to really let it all hang out. It's the old cold trickle mentality. Just let it all hang out and go to the end. And by the way, 28 years ago this week, your favorite movie was released upon to the world. Days of Thunder celebrates a birthday this week, so happy birthday to the greatest stock car racing movie ever made.
Yes, I love that movie.
The Godfather has still not answered our challenge.
Not answered yet, but soon though.
Maybe after the season, Mr. Moody might be in the mood to tell us why he thinks that movie is not that great, and we'll have him on. He's probably a big Talladega Nights fan. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say so.
All right, so what is our lead news story before we talk about the weekend that was from Gateway and Sonoma?
Well, all I could just say is the only big news story this week would definitely have to be NBC coming back this year, starting this weekend at Chicago. So I want to say NBCSN will be covering both the races on Saturday and Sunday. And I know this is going to be very exciting because, we have a guy that's going to be up on the booth named Dale Earnhart Jr.
I've heard of him.
I've heard of him too, and I've never heard of this guy before up until now. But the way I look at it, I was really excited that Junior, was going to be doing television this year, and I guess from what Kelly Earnhardt Miller said today on XM, he said, Dale Jr. Is pretty much a conversation type of guy. He likes talking about racing. He likes talking about the history of the sport. He likes talking about, the drivers and everything else in between. So I'm going to be very interested to see how he does up at the booth. But then yet again, I really think he's going to do a great job. Probably, I would say, him and Jeff Gordon, I mean, I tell you what, those guys do a really good job whenever they cover the races and so forth. And speaking of Dale Jr., there is a little bit of a rumor that he might be doing the truck race at Martinsville in October. And there's also a possibility that Jeff Gordon might be doing it as well. So I'm thinking if you guys are watching this right now, and I'm talking Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon, I would love it if you guys would run the truck race. I mean, that bring back a lot of memories, of you guys, racing there throughout the years. And I know Junior's won there like one time, and Jeff Gordon's like literally the all-time, I should say all-time, but, like 9 Martinsville wins or so forth. But that would be pretty great. But the only problem is with that, it's going to be in the playoffs. And, of course, you got those playoff drivers that are trying to win the race to advance and – and they're trying to make it to the next round. So, I mean, technically it's a good idea, but then yet again, you have to race against those playoff guys that are, that are trying to make it to like the championship 4.
Absolutely. And it's not like, you guys, if you've watched this show more than once, you already know what I'm about to say. This isn't like Kyle Busch or someone of a current racing cup level going down and racing against these guys and taking wins away and what have you. This is Hall of Famer Jeff Gordon. This is recently retired and future Hall of Famer Dale Earnhardt Jr. I'm sure you could walk through that Camping World Truck Series garage and say, hey, we want to have Jeff Gordon and Dale Jr. come out and race with you guys. What would you think? I don't think anybody's going to say no because they're legends. If you can beat a legend, the confidence, man, I keep talking about confidence and momentum. It's just going to build. It's going to get higher. And if you can beat them, you've beaten the best.
Exactly.
So, speaking of Dale Earnhardt Jr., I want to mention that he is a great conversationalist, as you mentioned. He is a great storyteller. I mean, how many times on a Sunday did you watch one of those personality pieces where he just sits down and talks a blue streak? The guy can spin a yarn, and he's going to be in the booth, I believe, with Jeff Burton, who is another guy who can tell a tale and is very articulate, unlike his brother Ward. We won't get into that right now. But it's going to be interesting. I still think right now the best analyst in NASCAR on television is Jeff Gordon. We're about to find out if Dale Jr. can match that. And I hope he can, because the sport desperately needs somebody not named Waltrip who just wants to tell how goofy they are to get out there and tell you the ins and outs of that car. There's nothing better to hear Jeff Burton or Jeff Gordon describe to you. You see what's going on right there? See that little wiggle? When you're inside that car, it feels like 10,000 times worse. And I remember this, and that's cool because now you're getting an inside perspective. It's a lot better than having in-car cams. I love the fact that they tell that tale. I could do without, hey, let's dial up Martin Truex Jr. stage 1. I can do without that. It's nice when they're giving you a little piece of information you may not have known before.
Right.
So, now we move on. We're in Gateway Park in Southern Illinois for what was the name of the race? And tell us what happened.
All right. So, the Truck Series was racing down in Gateway, or should I say St. Louis or Madison, whatever you can name it. Funny way of naming the race. So it was the Villa Lighting Delivers the Eaton 200, or I could probably just say Eaton 200 for short. But this race was won by Justin Haley on Saturday night, who ended up getting his first career win in the Truck Series. And so I was watching this race. I probably say like late Sunday night. I DVR'd it because I was pretty much I went out to the movies. I ended up seeing the movie Tag, and if anyone hasn't seen that movie yet, definitely recommend it. It's based on a true story. I can't really tell you because spoilers and whatnot. But the one thing that I was really like excited about in this race, and I think probably one driver who I was really interested the most was Christian Eckes, driving the 46 truck for Kyle Busch Motorsports. And I have to tell you, I mean, he was probably one of the trucks to beat, if not, probably had the winning truck. He ended up winning stage 2, and I looked at him and I said, this kid, is probably going to be the next talent that I'm going to be, taking a watch on. Well, let's just say what happens in stage 3. He ends up getting spun out by Stuart Friesen, gets into a crash with like a couple laps to go, and he ends up, in 28th. And but I tell you what, I'd say the next time this kid is in the 46 truck for KBM, I would say that, he's going to be a one to watch, especially when we come to the short tracks and the 1 miles and everything else and so forth. But other than that, this race, Grant and Finger ended up winning stage 1, and Eckes won stage 2. So in the end, Justin Haley ends up winning the race, and I would say now you have 3 guys, or I should say 4 guys that are in on wins, and now I think 4 guys that are in on points. So if you think about it, if we get another new winner, let's say like this Friday night at Chicago, now that point system is gonna tighten up just a little bit, because now 5th through 8th, you'll probably see those guys get locked in on points depending on what happens in the next couple weeks and so forth. But anyways, I'm going to get down to the top 10. So we have Justin Haley winning the race. We have Todd Gilliland finishing 2nd. Johnny Sauter finishing 3rd. Myatt Snyder 4th. Zane Smith finishing in the top 5. Then we have Chad Finley in 6th. Jesse Little 7th. Riley Herbst 8th. Cody Coughlin 9th. And Noah Gregson in 10th. So other notables, we have Austin Hill 11th. We have Stuart Friesen 13th. Brett Moffitt 14th. Austin Wayne Self 16th. Josh Rayum 18th. Matt Crafton 20th. Grant Anfinger, who was on the pole, finished 21st. Jen Joe Cobb 22nd. Jordan Anderson 23rd. John Hunter Nemechek 25th. And Christian Eckes 28th. Dalton Sargent 30th. And Joe Nemechek 32nd.
All right. Well, give me a happy and give me a sad coming out of this race.
So my happy for this race, I'm going to have to say the 42 of Chad Finley. I look at this kid, I'm saying, not that much of a big name. And you look at his results in the Truck Series. He only ran 2 back in 2015. So this was his first time back in like a couple of years. Ends up getting his first career top 5 finish. And I got to tell you, that team was pretty much came out of nowhere. But, I'm glad that they pulled off a top 10 finish. And then my sad would definitely have to go to Christian Eckes. I mean, he had a really good truck at the beginning, won the 2nd stage. It looked as if he was going to finish in the top 5, if not maybe a win. But then he ended up getting in a crash from Stuart Friesen, ended his night. But I tell you, watch this kid. I really think he's going to surprise everybody.
Fantastic. My happy goes to Justin Haley, first-time winner. Man, good job by you. Keep that momentum up. Get that confidence. You're going to be a star someday, kid. Just keep working. My sad has to go to John Hunter Nemechek. Bad luck continues for this young man. It seems like every time he takes a step forward, he's taking 2 steps back, and that's not the way to build a championship season. Still in the running, still has an outside chance. I don't think he's won this year, has he?
Who?
John Hunter.
Nemechek? Yeah, he won this year at Martinsville.
Yep. All right. See, when you get old, the first thing to go is your mind. But again, you can look at his results, and there are times when you think he's going to set the world on fire, and then he falls back, and then he comes back, and then he falls back. Kind of that up and down Elliott Sadler bit that's going on right now in the Xfinity Series. But this kid's got to get something underneath him. Let him string together 3-4 top 10s, throw a win in there. He's going to have his confidence built back up.
Also another happy I want to mention. So Brett Moffitt ended up finishing 14th, but the good news today is so that team has now had a sponsor for 2 races at Chicago and Kentucky. So if anybody's watching out there, I could probably say this on Wednesday, June 27th. Somebody please sponsor the 16 truck of Moffitt. I mean, he needs a full-time sponsor. I'd say he's probably one of those guys that I think could make it in the championship for this year. I mean, they're pretty much the dark horse team, in my opinion. They've ran pretty good on the mile and a half. They won at Atlanta this past year, and they won at Iowa a couple weeks ago. So think about it. 2 wins for Shiggy Hattori, and, so far they haven't had a full-time sponsorship yet. But if anybody's watching, please sponsor this 16 truck. They are a hard-working team, with a lot of great crew guys, a lot of good crew chief, and a good owner who's probably, I'd say, one of the best, guys when it comes down to business and so forth.
Right, and I think we said it last week. Please sponsor that truck. He is a great kid, and he really needs your help. I'm sorry. I'm texting my daughter right now. She just texted in the middle of the show. Hello, Emma, wherever you are. Oh, I know where you are, but she wants to call me, and I'm recording this for you guys, so I can talk to her tomorrow. That's all right. She's on vacation. She's doing her thing. She's having fun, man. So let's let it be. Now, moving on. What were we talking about? The sponsorship of Brett Moffitt. Yep. Now we move on to the average finish of the week on the Camping World Truck Series, we will start with me. Riley Herbst came home in 8th. He was my lock. Grant Enfinger, 21st. He was my sleeper. You add those up, it's 29. You divide that by 2. My average finish this week is a 14.5. Not bad. Not bad at all. But it's not the winner because Corey had Noah Gragson as his lock. Came home 10th. Todd Gilliland was his sleeper. Todd came in 2nd. You add that up, you divide by 2. Your weekly Truck Series average finish champion is Corey Huffnagel with an average. Good job by you, my friend.
Thank you.
Now, we need the standings so we can talk about who's in, who's out, who's going to push their way in. And that 5 through 8 is going to be a logjam, like you said.
I could probably say, like I said, let's say if we get a new winner, this weekend, that point system is going to tighten up just a little bit. But you look at the guys that are in the top 8 right now, and I look at Grant Enfinger, Stuart Friesen, Matt Crafton, Ben Rhodes. Those guys haven't even all rung the bell yet. And given the fact that they're all running pretty good this year, especially Stuart Friesen, no doubt about this kid's going to win a race, sometime sooner or later. But I would probably say that the next winner, it definitely have to go to the 52 because I really think that team is there. They're there, they're willing to win a race, but they just have to capitalize on the deal. And another guy that I really think that has to get a move on this year would definitely have to be Matt Crafton because yet again, he's a 2-time champion of the series, but then yet again, he's not running like, he was, during the championship years and so forth. I mean, you look at it, 3 top 5s, 10 top 10s, and his average finish is 13.8. It's not really that bad, but then yet again, this team really needs to get a move on, probably I would say from now until the start of the playoffs. I mean, don't get me wrong. He won a race last year, but, he needs to win a lot more races. And I can just tell you his only worst finish so far would have to be 29th at Las Vegas. But, looking at his results, I mean, a couple top 5s, but then yet again, he's been finishing outside the top 10 a few times and so forth.
Well, the way I look at it, you're absolutely right on everything you said. But like we were just talking about, we're going to Chicagoland this coming week. We've got a bunch of tracks that are really tailor-made for a lot of the guys. And Crafton is one of those guys that, like you said, 2-time champion, multiple race winner. But is he getting a little too up in the years to be competitive? Is this kind of like his swan song, the tail end of his career? Or do you still think he's a top prime suspect to be in that championship 8 going forward?
I mean, I could probably say he is a top 8 contender going into the playoffs, but I would have to say that, it depends on how he does in the regular season and, how many wins he's stacked up and how many top 5s, top 10s he stacked up, from now until like the end of the regular season and so forth. But I looked at it last year and, like I said, he ran pretty good, but he just didn't really capitalize, going forward. And I just look at this team, I still think Crafton could win a race, maybe 1 or 2, I'd probably say in my prediction.
Okay, fair enough. And I can't argue with that. So what are our top 10 in points right now?
So top 10 in points, we have Johnny Sauter still leading the points with about 4 wins. Noah Gragson only 73 behind with about 1 win. Brett Moffitt 96 behind. And then Grant Enfinger 127. Stuart Friesen 129. Justin Haley, Matt Crafton are tied for 6 at 139. And the 8th and final spot would go to Ben Rhodes at 155. So if you think about it, first through third is separated by 96 points. So it's pretty close, but then from there on out, you have the guys that are about 127, 29, and 39, 55 back. So these guys, they have to start, running well, and they got to start getting those stage points and playoff points, the best they can, because you think about it, playoff points and stage points, pretty much matter when you go to the playoffs, depending on how many you have and the fact if you have like a good start too.
Right. And with only 8 Sundays or 8 Saturdays or even 8 Fridays, if you're talking about the Truck Series, and not all of those are going to be, with the exception of the Cup guys, I don't think they run every weekend like the Cup guys do, you only have so much time to get your act together and sneak into this playoff run. A win and you're in, that's fantastic. Who's underneath Ben Rhodes? Who's the 9 and 10 right now?
So ninth would go to Myatt Snyder. So he's the first guy that's out of the top 8. And then Cody Coughlin is 10th at about 202 back.
It's funny you mentioned Cody Coughlin. I almost had him as a pick for this weekend. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody because we haven't gotten there yet. But Myatt Snyder was also on my radar. I think one of those two guys could pull off a surprise victory either next weekend or in the coming weeks and sneak their way in. Not just on points, they're gonna stamp their ticket and say, "I'm here. I'm running for this championship, whether you like it or not." So those two guys probably, if I had to pick one right now, just based on the last couple weeks alone, I'm gonna go with Myatt Snyder.
Yeah, he's been pretty consistent this year, and I could probably say he could be a sleeper. Getting into this playoffs, depending on the bubble drivers, do something within the next couple of races.
Exactly. So now, I mentioned last night on the Loki and Jabroni show, for those of you that watched live, thank you, like you, Corey. And for those of you that downloaded it today on audio only, thank you. But I mentioned last night that this was probably the most exciting road race I had seen in a very, very long time. Pit strategy was the name of the game this past Sunday. And for my daughter, Emma, Martin Truex Jr., baby. Look at that. I told you I would do this. I wanted to show that 78 car. Martin Truex Jr. drinks from the championship goblet at Sonoma. Fantastic race. I have to say that it was surprising at certain turns and certain levels of the race where they were using, I know turn 7 and turn 11 are your prime passing areas, but there were guys using turn 4. There were guys using turn 8 to make that little sneaky turn throughout the race. And it was just like, wow, that never happens. They just got a good run coming out of like the S turns, and guys were making passes. I think Hamlin made a really great pass at one point through the S curve. And I was just like, wow, you don't see that unless you're playing a video game. You don't see passes in the S curves, but there it was. I think Harvick, Truex, and gosh, I can't remember who came in third.
Boyer.
That's right. I didn't think Boyer had a rocket, but Boyer found a way to keep himself active in that top 10 for most of the day, never far out, much like Truex and Harvick. Their pit strategies worked to perfection, and they were always near the top of the list. I never view the road courses as pit strategy races. You either have something and you have, the car underneath you. You have the pit strategy. You have just like this perfect storm that takes you to victory lane in a road course, or you're basically field filler going forward. The road courses throw all your conventional wisdom right out the window. And I had so much fun watching this race. It was unbelievable. I've never been this excited, whether it was Sears Point then, it was Infineon later, now it's Sonoma. It's all still the same track, but man, I have not been this entertained by a Sonoma race in 20 years. It was fantastic.
I'd probably say the one fact that I really want to take away from this race on Sunday was you have to look at the pit strategy call that Cole Pern made, like I think with like 15 laps to go, when he pretty much faked saying like pit, don't pit, so you think about it, he pretty much left Truex out there, and I think he was leading by like 28 seconds or 23 seconds, and then everybody else was trying to get up to like second spot or whatever it is and so forth. But you look at it, the margin of victory was about 10 seconds. And going back to this race on Sunday, I didn't realize that, or I didn't know that this race was going to come down the tire strategy, because if you watch the race on Sunday, everybody was talking about, okay, how long should I save up on my tires? If I go 60%, I'll be fine. But then if I go 100%, then I got to go for it and so forth. And, and I think tire strategy, was kind of the key on Sunday. And you just look at it, it pretty much worked with the 78, and, other guys who were on different strategies didn't really work for everybody whatsoever. But now I just look at it, first through third, and apparently now everybody's all saying that, Boyer has now emerged as the fourth guy that could compete for the championship in November. And I could kind of not agree. I mean, I couldn't disagree with that. I really think, Boyer could be in that championship for in November. He's ran solid. He's won 2 races. And I think, he's a guy that could contend with Harvick and Busch and Truex whatsoever. But you just look at this race on Sunday. Yeah, I mean, it was one of the best road course races of the year. And now my other question is, what's Watkins Glen going to bring in August? I mean, could probably bring the same scenario, or could probably bring a different scenario. You just never know.
Well, when you look at, oh, you know what? I'm just trying to do this off the top of my head. I don't have the stats in front of me. You have Harvick with 5 wins. You have Kyle Busch with 3. MTJ has 3, I believe. Austin Dillon 1. Clint Bowyer 1. And I think Joey Logano snuck a win in there. Am I right?
Yeah.
So I got all the winners.
Well, Busch actually won 4, and Truex has won 3.
Yep, and Bowyer has 2.
Yep.
So, oh yeah, my math is off. So right now, yes, I'd have to agree that Clint Bowyer has found a way to, I wouldn't say sneak. He has kind of pushed his way into that championship conversation. Whereas when we talked about this, I would say 6-8 weeks ago, we were talking about Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Larson. Somewhere along the way, we lost Kyle Larson. Bad luck, bad cars, just a plethora of just misfortune for that young man. And Clint Bowyer has just, excuse me, I'm going to the front of the line. Thank you. Kyle, go sit over there. You can come back up eventually, but right now is my time. And I think that's good for Clint Bowyer. He's needed a season like this for a long, long time. And I don't know what it is. It's not like Kevin Harvick was a bum before he came to Stewart-Haas Racing. He was certainly competitive. He was every season but one in that championship hunt. But as soon as he got to Stewart-Haas, he's a perennial contender. Let's go to Clint Bowyer. As soon as he got to Stewart-Haas, he's an instant contender. Kurt Busch, same thing, instant contender. The jury is out still for Eric Almirola, but he's making strides forward. So it's a good thing for Clint Bowyer. Having said that, the other two that have 1 win apiece, Austin Dillon and Joey Logano, if there's going to be one of those two that is going to spoil the party for any one of the 4 we just mentioned, Harvick, Busch, Truex, Bowyer, I think it's going to be Logano. Logano has that ability, and has a proven track record of winning, that he could make this really interesting for just Clint Bowyer. Because we're talking about Clint Bowyer, Logano has that innate ability to come out of nowhere, get himself a win, and spoil the party for someone else. So just in that list right there, wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, only 6 winners in the first half of the season. I don't think I've ever seen a season like this before. In that, I'm even going to go back to, the heavy-duty Jeff Gordon run where he won, I think, 11 or 12 races in a season. Yeah, it was more spread out. So if Gordon won twice, then a Terry Labonte would come in, or a Rusty Wallace would come in, or an Earnhardt Sr. would come in. You'd have 7 different winners at the halfway point. Then he'd go on another run, win 2, drop 1, win 2, drop 1. This has been the most amazing first half of the season. And next week, just so you guys know, I'm throwing a curveball. Corey doesn't even know about this. Pay attention. Next week, we are going to have our first half of the year awards. I will send out categories to Corey, and we will vote, or we will just tell who we think are the first half category winners of the season. Now, one more curveball. I know Rookie of the Year is decided by overall points. Are you giving me high fives? What is this thing I'm watching right here?
No, I'm pretty much throwing a curveball.
Okay. I know Rookie of the Year is decided by overall points. But for this set of awards, we're determining who the first half Rookie of the Year is points, but by saying overall ability, what you've seen out of these guys, can they carry it to the end of the season and be the overall? Hear from me Sunday, you better be on my text message gimmick over and over again saying I need categories. Now, the best part is you guys can vote too. Aside from my question of the week, once you're done watching this, I will post the categories on the C+J Speedway review page, and you will have a chance to vote. We want your votes. We need more fan interaction. Now, having said all of that, and having wasted my breath over and over again, Corey, give us the breakdown of the day that was at Sonoma. What was the finishing order?
All right, so we have Martin Truex Jr. winning the race. We have Kevin Harvick finishing second. We have Boyer third, Chase Elliott fourth. Kyle Busch runs out the top five, and then Kurt Busch in sixth. Eric Jones seventh, Eric Almirola eighth, Alex Bowman ninth, and Denny Hamlin in 10th. Other notables, you have Jimmy Johnson 11th, Chris Buescher 12th, Brad Keselowski 13th, Kyle Larson 14th, who started on the pole, Daniel Suarez 15th, Austin Dillon 16th, Matt DiBenedetto 17th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 18th, Joey Logano 19th, Casey Kane 20th, Michael McDowell 21st, David Reagan 22nd, Parker Kligerman 23rd, Ryan Newman 24th, William Byron 25th, Paul Menard 26th, Trevor Bayne 27th, Bubba Wallace 29th, Greg Galding 30th, Ty Dillon 33rd, Ryan Blaney 34th, Cole Witt 35th, Jamie McMurray 37th, and AJ Allmendinger 38th.
Okay. Well,
all right.
We'll go with the happy and sads. You let off the last one. I'm going to lead off this one. I have two happies. One wants to do this because my daughter watches every single week. Happy number Martin Truex Jr. Like father, like daughter, man. She knows how to pick him. And funny story, she only picked him because he used to do those goofy Napa Know-How commercials with Michael Waltrip.
Yeah.
And she fell in love with MTJ right away. So happy number one goes to Truex. Happy number two, even though it doesn't sound very happy, Daniel Suarez coming home in 15th. He had a difficult day, but he fought his way into the upper half of the field. I know he was up front for a short spell, and that was during the pit stops, which, guys, if you've never watched a road course race, it's not like a circle track where everything cycles really quickly. It takes laps, plural. So when Suarez was near the front, he was there. He was doing his job. He was making the passes. Then eventually he has to pit, and he goes back in the running order. I think a 15th place finish for Daniel Suarez at a track like this is good. So I'm going to give him a mini happy. My sad only because A, he ran well, and B, he was one of my picks this week. Poor Jamie McMurray in 37th. Oh, good granny. I wanted him so bad to have a good week. He needed a really good week, and unfortunately, just didn't happen. Oh, terrible, terrible. I'll give a mini sad to AJ Allmendinger only because he said in his interview, in all my years of road racing, I've never missed a shift, and the one time he misses the shift, he blows his engine. So that's my mini sad. So come away with your happies and sad, kind sir.
All right, so my happy, I would have to go with Alex Bowman, and another top 10 finish for that 88 team. Hasn't had really the best of season so far, but, you know, he ran the K&N West race, I believe, the day before. And he got some really good road course racing experience from what I know of. And, you know, to come away with a top 10, you know, on Sunday, I thought that was a good job for the 88. And then, of course, my sad would definitely have to go to AJ Allmendinger. I really thought that he was going to come home with a victory. And, you know, again, missed a shift early in the race, which that pretty much costed him his day. But we'll just see how he does at Watkins Glen in August, and hopefully he can still win.
Exactly. So now we go to our favorite part of the whole race breakdown is the average finish. I have to tell you, my friend, I'm starting with you. I went back through all the papers, and this is the third worst finish. I have the worst, you have the second worst, and now you have the third worst. My apologies to you. It was just a bad day for some of these guys. Not your fault.
Yeah.
But just keep in mind, you still don't have the overall worst finish of all time like this guy over here. So here we go. Your lock was A.J. Allmendinger. We just spoke about him. He came home in 38th. Daniel Suarez came home 15th. That was your sleeper. And Trevor Bayne was your hopeful at 27. You add those up, you get a total of 80. You divide that by 3, and Corey, your average finish was 26.6. Not a great week. But let me put it to you this way. It was only your third time since we've done average finishes that you finished below 20. So keep that in mind. You are like the pick'em guy.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that out loud. You do a fantastic job with this. You've never gone 1, 2, 3.
Yet.
But exactly, yet. The season's not over. The podcast isn't over. Moving on. I had Kevin Harvick as my lock. He finished second. I also had Daniel Suarez as my sleeper. He finished 15th. And unfortunately, my hopeful Jamie McMurray came in 37th. You add that up, you get a grand total of 55. You divide that by 3. My average finish was 18.3. Not great, but not bad. But it was enough to take this week. Nobody answered our question this week on favorite road course. Who's the favorite going forward on the road courses? At this point, gosh, I'd have to say it's going to come down to the big Harvick Truex. That's my answer. I would love to hear what you have to say on the subject.
I'd probably say the same thing from what we saw on Sunday. But yet again, I would have to say, AJ Allmendinger would definitely have to be a surprise, coming to Watkins Glen in August. And yet again, another one who I'm also going to be keeping my eye on would definitely have to be Daniel Suarez. He's also a good racer, road racer himself.
Absolutely. So now we move on. We go, all 3 series are going to be in Chicagoland this weekend for a fantastic weekend of racing, starting on Friday with the trucks at the Overton's 225. Tell them where they can find it.
So the race is on 9 o'clock Eastern time on FS1, and if you guys are out and about whatsoever, and right now there it is. If you have Sirius XM satellite radio, if you're out somewhere, it is on channel 90. And Chris, you're gonna love this. The race is on MRN.
The voice of NASCAR.
There you go.
That never gets old. Never gets old
at all. And so here's the entry list for this weekend. You have Cody Coughlin driving this weekend. You have Jordan Anderson. Todd Gilliland, who's going to be running the Mobile One truck this weekend. John Hunter Nemechek was back in the 8. Maya Snyder. You have Ross Chastain. You have Brett Moffitt, who recently has 2 sponsors, actually sponsors for the next 2 races and so forth. Noah Gragson, and then you have Johnny Sauter, who has been the dominant guy on the mile and a half so far this season. You have Justin Haley, Dalton Sargent, Ben Rhodes, Justin Fontaine. Brandon Jones is going to be in the 51. Stuart Friesen, Bo Lamastis, and then you have Joe Nemechek, Matt Crafton, and Grant Infinger.
All right. So I'll tell you what. I'll start out with the trucks, and I will let you start out with the Xfinity and the Cup. My lock this week is going to be Todd Gilliland. Again, momentum. And he has just shown a lot of fire, heart, passion, speed. He's shown everything. My sleeper is, once again, we talk about momentum, but I'm going to go back to Texas, where this gentleman finished 3rd. He won last week. He was 3rd on the last mile and a half that he ran. That's Justin Haley. Big things for this kid. If he can go back-to-back, he is probably, with the exception of Johnny Sauter, he's probably your mini favorite to where Sauter is your odds-on favorite right now. I just see a big upside with this kid. And when I did my homework for this, I just saw that on mile and a half, Haley hasn't been awesome, but the last couple mile and a halves, there's been improvement. So 3rd at Texas some weeks ago. Now you're going into Chicagoland, a mile and a half, which is built a lot different than Texas, because at Chicagoland, for those of you guys that don't know, there's not really a real straightaway. The backstretch is slightly curved. Then you go into the D shape on the front stretch, going to start finish. It's different than Texas, but at the same time, mile and a half is a mile and a half is a mile and a half. They're all built the same way. High speed, low drag, corners are fast. And if Haley could do that well in Texas, it will translate. That's maybe it's going to be my dumb statement for the week. That momentum will translate this weekend at the Overton's 225. Justin Haley's my sleeper.
All righty, so my lock on this one had me in a little bit of a whole toss-up. So I'm looking at the last couple mile and a halves, and they were pretty much dominant by about two drivers. Well, two drivers were, really dominant when it comes to the mile and a half racetrack and so forth. But my lock this weekend, and this is probably going to surprise almost everybody, but my lock is definitely going to have to go the 52 with Stuart Friesen. And the reason why I'm picking him is, I've watched him on the mile and a half the last.
All right.
Yep. The last time I've watched him on the last couple mile and a half racetracks, you just think about it. He ran good at Las Vegas. He ran good at Charlotte. Ran really well at Texas. Started on the pole. He won a stage, and he ended up finishing second. So I'm looking at this race on Friday, and I'm saying to myself, okay, I really think that this kid is ready to win a race. He's there, but the only thing is he just hasn't closed the deal just yet, and he has to be there, pretty much right at the end, especially, when he's in second, he just has to, pounce on the race leader and so forth, and he has to get that good restart, get that good bike coming off the corner, and I really think that this kid could win a race sometime soon, whether before Eldora or after Eldora, either way, because, I already think, Friesen's going to win the dirt race at Eldora real easily because he's one of those guys that pretty much runs on the dirt. And it's funny because every time I'm watching the truck race, they'll mention Stuart Friesen and they'll say, oh, Friesen ran a late model race somewhere, or he ran a dirt model race somewhere, or whatever, and so forth. But keep this in mind. Friesen is going to be a one to watch, and I really think if he doesn't win a race in the regular season, he's going to point himself in, no question about it. Now, my sleeper for this one, I'm going to have to go with Brett Moffitt. Yeah, and he's another guy that, he won in Atlanta this year in March, and he's probably one of the sleeper teams that I think is running really good on the mile and a halves this season. And to capture two sponsors for the next two races, I really think that was great for him. And if Moffitt could pull off another win, that would be pretty good for everybody, especially for that team. And, when I look at it, I really think Moffitt could contend with these guys on Friday night.
And going back to what you just said in regard to if Moffitt can score this win, what that's going to do is that's going to cement the fact that anybody, I don't care if it's Stay Free mini pads or, high C, what are those little drinks called in the barrels that kids love, that they're just sugar and water with coloring? Hugs? I don't care. You could put roadside oranges on the truck. Somebody sponsor Brett Moffitt.
Exactly.
It's that simple. And if he, like you said, if he pulls off another win, this just really propels that sponsor search to a new level, and it also cements him as one of the early favorites for that championship. Fantastic picks overall. We did not match anything. This is going to be fun. So now we move to the Xfinity Series, the Overton's 300. By the way, thank you, Chicagoland Speedway, and whoever picks the sponsorships for this, because this was really easy. I didn't have to write the kids who go to Summer School 500, sponsored by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, co-sponsored by LED Light Bulbs 900 with 2K whatever. Overton's 225 is the trucks. The Overton's 300 is the Xfinity race. Corey, take it away, lock and sleeper.
So Saturday, it is the Overton's 300 at Chicago, 3:30 Eastern time on FS1. Oh, I'm sorry. It's NBCSN. So it's I fooled you on that one.
All week pimping NBC and NBCSN as the new home of NASCAR throughout the rest of the season, and the first opportunity you get, that's okay.
That was supposed to be a joke. I tried to fool you on that one, but
No,
no,
not
guys.
even close, my friend.
All right, so the race is on NBCSN. There's 3 things on here, so catch it on TV, and then also if you have your iPad or iPhone, you can stream it on NBC Sports. So it's free to download, whatever it is. Sirius XM, Channel 90. It is on MRN.
The voice of NASCAR.
So it looks like MRN is going to have a busy weekend down in Chicago. So I'm going to go to the entry list, and I'm going to first I'm going to read the Cup guys that are going to be running this weekend. So let's see. You look at it. Let's see. The first one that comes to mind, Paul Menard is going to be in the 22 car for Penske. Chase Elliott is back in the 22 car for GMS Racing. Daniel Suarez is going to be in the 18 car for Joe Gibbs. Kyle Larson is going to be in the 42 car for Chip Ganassi. And moving all the way down, you have Kevin Harvick driving the 98 for Stuart Haas. Beyond G, DeBency, Racing, Merge, whatsoever.
Ted DiBiase what?
DeBency.
The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase 500. Okay.
Yeah. So now moving on to the Xfinity entry list. We have Cole Custer in the 00. We have Elliott Sadler. We have Matt Tiff. Jeb Burton is going to be in the 3 car this weekend. Ross Chastain in the 4. Michael Annett. Last year's winner, Justin Allgaier, which was won in September. Now it's July. Well, actually, end of June. Tyler Reddick, Austin Cindric is going to be in the 12. Then you have Ryan Truex in the 11. Brandon Jones, Christopher Bell, Daniel Hemrick. You have Joey Gase. You have Ryan Sieg. Chad Fincham, Jeremy Clements, Brandon Hightower, Chase Briscoe will be in the 60. Kaz Gralla will be in the 61. And let's not to mention, he also has another sponsor, I think, for the next 2 races going forward for Fury Race Cars. And we go to the guy that has yet to retire, but probably not going to retire sometime soon, would be the 89 of Morgan Shepherd.
You know, I got to ask this question since you read that list. Is that, you know, I don't know how many times you've been to New Hampshire, but I've easily been there a dozen times. And every time I go there, there's Morgan Shepherd. He somehow finds sponsorship. He's out there. Since they've done away with Start and Park, he actually tries to be competitive. He's got to be 112 years old. How is Morgan Shepherd still? That guy has got the heart of a lion. How he's still out there? I remember when I first started watching racing back in 1721, when they were running with horses and carriages. Morgan Shepherd was always, and now here we are in 2018, some 307 years later, and Morgan Shepherd is still racing. God love that man. Seriously, you know, good on you, Morgan Shepherd, for still getting out there and still trying. Because a lot of the kids that watch racing are like, who's Morgan Shepherd? Sit them down. Explain who Morgan Shepherd is with the wingtip shoes and all of that. He's not wearing normal racing shoes, kids. He's wearing wingtips.
Yeah.
If you didn't know that, look it up. Go to Wikipedia, Morgan Shepherd, and he's always got the Racing with Jesus on the rear quarter panel in the last 12 years or so.
Yes.
Good on him. I love that guy. Wow. He reminds me of Ric Flair. He just won't retire. He just will never die. He's the Ric Flair. He's the Keith Richards, if you want to go the rock and roll route. He's just the guy that'll never die. He's just never going to go away, kids. I hope that when my daughter is 30 years old and goes to a race, she's 10 now, so 20 years from now, 870-year-old Morgan Shepherd will be in the field.
Precisely.
That's all I've got to say. Go ahead with your lock and sleeper, my friend.
All right, so my lock on this one, this is probably going to be an easy pick on this. So when I looked at the entry list, I said, okay, my lock definitely has to go to Kyle Larson. I mean, last time he was on a 1.5 mile racetrack, he won at Las Vegas back in March, you know, and something tells me I really think this is going to be a Kyle Larson type of race, because you just look at it, you know, the kid's fast. You know, he runs pretty good on the high side, and he knows how to drive a really, like, loose race car whatsoever. I mean, let's not to mention, during the off week, I guess Larson ran a lot of dirt races, I think, throughout the entire state of Ohio. And I think he won like a couple of them and so forth. And but I just look at it, since none of the big guys are running this weekend, like Keselowski and Kyle Busch, that's probably going to be the only Cup guy I really think is going to be the one to watch and pretty much going to be the tough to beat. And I'd probably have to say would be the 42. Now, my sleeper, I'm going to have to go with the 21 of Daniel Hemrick. Because I really have to say, this kid is really good this year. He's run pretty competitive. He finished second a couple weeks ago at Michigan, but I really think this is going to be the time where he needs to win a race. And, sometime soon down the road, I really think he can. Other than that, he'll probably point his way in as usual. But I just look at it, every time, whenever the Cup guys are off or they're not racing, the 21 car is usually that one to beat sometimes, and he's usually near the front or at the front. But other than that, if I'm hoping that Hammer can win the race. Especially with Richard Childress racing. I mean, they've just been pretty good, but they just got to start running better.
Absolutely. And with my picks this week, I avoided the Cup guys, 1,000%, and it's probably the only race I just kind of went with my heart. I did a little research. I did a little looking. I wanted to see who was good on the mile and a halves. But this week I picked two guys that I really think, how do I say it? The breakout. I wanted a breakout this week. So my lock and my keeper, which will probably cost me this week in the average finish championship of the world, my lock is simply because he's an SHR guy overall, and because I really want this kid just break out. I want him to be so good. I want him to be a championship contender. I want Cole Custer to be in that argument at the end. My sleeper is the son of a race car driver who was a master of the mile and a half. So I'm going with Jeb Burton. Like you mentioned, he's running the 3 car this weekend, which is an RCR car. Burton has a little bit of a history with RCR, and Jeb is better than maybe his finishes have shown over the last 6-8 weeks. So those are my picks. They may bite me in the butt. At the end of the day, I just want to pick 2 guys on the Xfinity Series that I really want to break through and make a name for themselves going forward. So Custer and Burton.
All right.
Okay, so going back to the naming theme, we have the Overton's 400 for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series this Sunday. Tell us where we can find it.
All right, so now Sunday, July 1st, 2:30 Eastern Time on NBCSN, and also stream it live on NBC Sports on the app, and then SiriusXM Channel 90, which is the NASCAR radio, and again, MRN.
The voice of NASCAR.
They're going to have a busy weekend at Chicago, and not to mention, it's going to be a home game for one of the MRN guys known as Pete Pistone.
Yes.
And
yes.
He's a hometown guy, and he's really excited. And Pete, if you're watching this right now, we're really excited for you.
I just want to throw this out there because a couple weeks ago I mentioned the name, and we glossed. We didn't say anything in text messages. I don't think we put anything out on the page, but let's wish a speedy recovery to Wendy Venturini. Got hit by a car while she was jogging in Sonoma this past weekend, and she's always been one of my favorite analysts. Had a bit of a crush on her some years ago, but it's one of those fleeting things. She's a celebrity. I'm never gonna whatever. Wendy Venturini is an asset to the sport of racing on the radio side. She used to do a little bit on the TV side. Speedy recovery to Wendy. Please get well. If any of you guys have any interest in sharing this with her on her Twitter, on her Facebook, on her Instagram, whatever, Wendy, we want you to get better. It's not the same. It's not the same without you. So the entry list probably has every usual suspect. I don't think we have to go through it. Is there anybody on the list that is a first timer or a surprise?
All right, so looking at the entry list, let's see. So you have Jamie McMurray, Brad Keselowski. You have Austin Dillon. You have Kevin Harvick, Trevor Bayne, Chase Elliott, Eric Almirola. You have Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Ty Dillon, Clint Boyer, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kyle Busch, Daniel Suarez, Eric Jones, Paul Menard, Joey Logano, William Byron, Ryan Newman, Matt DiBenedetto, Chris Buescher, David Reagan, Kurt Busch, Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, AJ Allmendinger, Jimmy Johnson, Martin Truex Jr., Alex Bowman, Casey Kane, and Kyle Weatherman, who I believe is making his Cup debut this weekend.
Sorry, what's his name again?
Kyle Weatherman.
Well, so let's talk lock, sleeper, and because it is the Cup race, we get a hopeful three-banger on the Cup race, the Overton's 400. Corey, tell us what you think.
So this one was also kind of a tough one for me. And I had to look at it. I said, okay, so you have pretty much two guys that have dominated on the mile-and-a-half tracks this year. You have Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch. So I look at it this year, and I look at for this weekend. So this was pretty much a tough one for me, but if I would have had to choose one, my lock would definitely have to go to Kyle Busch. Because if you think about it, the last mile and a half we were on was at Charlotte, where, Kyle pretty much dominated the 600. And again, this is also one team who I think, can contend with Harvick on the mile and a half this year. And then yet again, I really think it's going to come down between the 18 and the 4, not only this weekend, but pretty much the next mile and a half racetracks we go to and so forth. So Busch was pretty much my sleeper, tough pick on that, but I pretty much said, you know what, I think he's going to be the car to beat. My sleeper for this weekend, let's see. My sleeper for this weekend, I'm going to go with the two of Brad Keselowski. And
nice.
I really think, this, he hasn't won a race yet. And I really think this is probably the weekend where, he could definitely ring the bell this weekend. And, he's run pretty good, but he just has to start, capitalize, and he has to start, he just has to win that race and so forth. But so he's pretty much my my sleeper. And then my hopeful would definitely have to go to Ryan Blaney.
Okay. Well, you just made one particular family here in Connecticut happy because I've mentioned them before and I'll mention them again. And eventually we're going to get you down to watch a race at the Azar-Ju Mini Mansion here in Montville, Connecticut. Mark, the patriarch of the family, Brad Keselowski fan. His daughter, Sarah, big Ryan Blaney fan. So the only way you could have made this better was not to pick Kyle Busch, but because nobody likes Kyle Busch. Like
right.
One person that I know, two people, sorry, like Kyle Busch. You just made the family very, very happy with your picks this week. I hope it translates into success. All right, from bottom to top, my hopeful this week in looking at, again, I keep talking about right now, a guy who doesn't have a win and who every week we seem to talk about more and more. My hopeful is Paul Menard. I think this could his way to stamp himself into the playoffs, get that win. He needs that win. It's not going to be a Chris Buescher win where weather gives him a win and he's stamped into the playoffs, because as we all remember from what I think it was 2 years ago, Chris Buescher was one and done, and that was it. My sleeper this week, she asked me, do you ever pick my driver? Well, Emma, here it comes. My sleeper this week, although he shouldn't be a sleeper, last year's king of the mile and a half is Martin Truex Jr. Hasn't had the greatest luck on the mile and a half. I know he won this past weekend at Sonoma. Where was his other win? Do you remember?
For Truex?
Say again?
Martin Truex Jr., right?
Yeah.
Okay, so his other two wins were California and Pocono.
Okay, so one was the race that I hate. The other one was a mile and a half. So, but right. The king of the mile and a half last year, Martin Truex Jr. That's my slipper. You're welcome. No more pimping picks from Dad ever again. Let it go. My lock, right now, I'm going to go with the king of the mile and a half this year. I'm going to go with Kevin Harvick. Yes, it's a homer pick, but at the same time, it's an educated pick. Harvick right now is the guy. And the last couple weeks have been good to Kevin Harvick. He had the All-Star win at the end of May. He had the second place this past week. I think he had a fourth or fifth place finish the week before. He's been top 10. It's consistent. The only two races that he's really not been in contention, he's crashed. So pretty easy pick right there. Kevin Harvick as my lock. Now, guys, for the question of the week, and Corey, I want to hear your answer. We'll give our answers now, but this is your opportunity, guys, to chime in and tell us, because Chicago is a mile and a half track. My question of the week to you is, what is your favorite mile and a half track and why? So I'll let Corey start. I'll answer after, and we'll go from there.
So my favorite mile and a half. All right, so my favorite mile and a half, I would definitely have to say Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say Texas on that one.
I'm going to agree with you, although there are other tracks that came into my radar when I was coming up with this question and that I looked into. But, man, when you talk about Texas, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but in my opinion, it's the perfect mile and a half track. People can point to California, people can point to all these other places, but Texas really is the perfect mile and a half track, from just the way it's set up to the speed to everything else. When you watch Texas, it's never boring. It's always high speed, low drag, passing on the low side, passing on the high side. Sometimes they go 3 wide. There was a point in this past Texas race where they went almost, again, I just said it, 4 wide. And I watched it. I'm like, oh my God, these guys are going to die. What are they doing? But again, skilled professionals, it's what they do. I'm going to agree with Corey. Texas is my favorite mile and a half track. This is where you now go to the C&J Speedway Review Facebook page. If you're not a member, go join it. You can send it to our Twitter, which is CJ_Speedway. Give your answers. Corey takes care of all of the Twitter.
Yeah.
Or you could email me personally at cburns19@gmail.com. That's CBERNES19@gmail.com. Put in the subject area question of the week. We get some answers. I'll read them. When we go over this race next week, your answers will be right here. If they're good, I'm going to bring them. If they're bad, I'm not going to take a dump on you. But you got to up your game, kids. That's what it's all about. Now,
Exactly.
Do you have anything you want to pimp, plug, or otherwise sell to the people?
All right, so pretty much keep following on the C&J Speedway Review on YouTube. So we have about, I'd probably say 35 episodes, 36 as of right now.
This would be 37, my friend.
37, okay.
We just created our own NASCAR season, 37 weeks.
Yes, 37 weeks. Let's see. So YouTube, keep following us. Click subscribe. You'll get to see our notifications on when we start up, and pretty much when we will record or upload whatever. Instagram, we are at CJ Speedway. Twitter, we are at CJ_Speedway. And also Facebook, keep following us on the C&J Speedway Review. Like I said, we're on every Wednesday night, talking about racing and all that stuff and so forth. And also, I want to give a little bit of a shout out to Chelsea. I know she is right now a huge fan of the show, and also I forgot to mention, so she was watching the race on Sunday, and she was pretty interested. She was interested by it, and I'd probably say now, she just has to look for a favorite driver. So I know that one's going to take a little bit of time, but pretty much, there's not let's see. There's a lot of drivers to choose from, whether if they're either good or bad whatsoever. But, you know, also my grandfather, who is a big fan of the show, Jack, just want to say this out. So I guess my grandmother on my dad's side of the family, she is in the hospital because of heart problems right now. And if everybody can say a prayer for my grandmother, that would be pretty good. I just had the news today and a little bit upset, but I'm going to be praying that she has a really good recovery and hopefully she'll be back up and walking.
Well, the prayers are already going out, and you have my word that later tonight I will be sending a little message upstairs, and you'll get through this, and hopefully everybody gets through this, man, because it's a strange thing that when you do something like this, whether it's this video podcast or the Loki and Jabroni show or like what Mike does, Loki, with his karaoke bit, you become family with some of these people. And all of you that are watching now, your family, whether you're blood or not, your family. There's no escape. So, and Corey, you're like a brother. So, big prayers going forward. I want to throw a special shout out. I know I mention it almost every week, but I don't think I've mentioned him for my week. But Chad Hatfield. Just got to talk to him yesterday, which was fantastic. We don't talk a lot, but we've been friends. Oh, I'm gonna blow it up now. He's gonna hate me for this, but 24 years, been my friend, and at times he's been my voice of reason. So it was great to talk to him yesterday. He has a fundraiser. If you find the Loki and Jabroni show on Facebook, pinned to the top of the page is Chad Hatfield and Team World Vision. It's a Christian organization that is trying to bring clean water to countries that don't have access to clean water. And as they raise money, as the end result is going to be Chad Hatfield and Team World Vision are coming to New York from their home in Anderson, Indiana, to run the New York City Marathon this November. Guys, open your hearts, open your wallets, throw a couple bucks Chad's way, throw it to Team World Vision. Just, I can't say enough good things about what Chad does for charity. And I'm proud to be his friend for 24 years. I'm proud to know him. He's a more decent guy you will never find. And he's a race fan. And he's a Kyle Larson fan. And for years and years and years until his retirement, he was a Jeff Gordon fan. Going back to what you said earlier about this young lady, Chelsea. Chelsea, if you're listening to me, if you're going to pick a driver, and I'm not going to point you in the direction of this guy over here, I'm just going to give you 4 letters, A, B, J, J. Anybody but Jimmy Johnson. Hear the sound of my... Do you understand the words that come out of my mouth? Anybody but Jimmy Johnson. You know what? Let me give you an up-and-comer that you can grab onto on the bottom floor, and when he gets to be somebody, like I did with Kevin Harvick when Rusty Wallace was on his way out, get a guy on the ground floor. Let me give you Matt DiBenedetto. Follow him. Give you Bubba Wallace. Follow him.
Anybody
but Jimmy Johnson. But if you like the colors you see around this room right here, the 4 is not a bad choice. I'm just saying.
It's not a bad choice at all.
All right, so I'm going to pimp something out. Last week, I know I talked about it. We had the big interview with Lizzie Borden on the Loki and Jabroni show. Guys, please go find our show. Like it, love it. Same thing we tell you to do with this show. Because we have big things brewing that I cannot talk about because legality. But I will say that there is a former NFL wide receiver that has agreed to be on our show. I know I've talked about it a little bit before, but now I'm giving you a little bit more information. As the NFL season is coming closer to us, he's going to come on the show, and we're going to do our picks for the year. It's a guy I followed. It's a guy I love. I'll give you a little hint. He's number 86 on your scorecard, but he's number 1 in your heart. Now, Who does Chris? Number 86. Some years ago.
Number 86.
And on this show, I really want number 86 where? Who do I root for?
You root for the Falcons.
Yes. So there you go. Corey just gave you a hint. Now, as far as this show is concerned, I know Corey reaches out via the Twitter. I do the same thing via the Twitter, the Facebook, the Google machine, whatever. I'm trying to find someone who would agree to be on the Skype thing, and we'll have the three-headed monster, and we'll do a racing thing. What I want to offer you guys, all of you listeners, is the following. I know we have X amount of subscribers on the YouTube. I know that we have, we're bubbling. We've only been at this less than a year. We keep growing. Thank you, first of all. If we can get to 100 subscribers on the YouTube, what I want to offer you, any one of you, is a guest spot where you can do the picks just like we do. You can have your say just like we do. You can sit and talk about how you don't think Todd Gilliland is anything, or how you think Cole Custer is awesome, or how you think Ken Harvick is a bum. Whatever you want to do. Guest spot on this show, tell your friends. And on the C&J Speedway Review Facebook page, I will pick one of you to have a guest spot on this show. And you can be part of the three-headed monster. Next week, unfortunately, I'm proposing that we not record on Wednesday because it is America's birthday. Happy birthday, America. July 4th is on Wednesday. We will probably go hot on July 5th. If Corey, you're okay with that?
Yeah, July 5th, I think I'm pretty good.
All right. So 8:30, we will do what we do, and then Eddie will put it up and all of this mess. And the best thing about it is he won't be playing Zombie War, Gimmick, Schnabitz, Fernum, and he will end the show on time. Which, by the way, if you didn't listen last night, Corey, Mike and I gave Eddie the riot act for not being where he should have been. And as an added bonus, Eddie sang the song.
He did?
You know. He did. He sang the song. You're going to have to go back and find that on iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, wherever you find the Loki and Jabroni show. It was funny as hell.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Enjoy the weekend that will be at Chicagoland. We will be back on Thursday to talk about not only what happened at Chicagoland, but the weekend that will be in Daytona. I always call it the firecracker. I know it's like the Coke Zero, Gimmick, SchnabitzFernum.com 400. It's always going to be the Firecracker 400 to me. But, guys, it's Daytona.
Yeah.
This is the one. This is the one that separates the men from the boys going forward.
Pretty much. I'm really looking forward to next weekend, so it's gonna be great.
Absolutely. Corey, you have a good night. Good night. I'm going to try to have a good night. We will see you guys Thursday next week.
Good night.
I was afraid to come out of the water.
Oh, boy. Never gets old.
It never gets old, much like the voice of NASCAR.
Yeah.